Hey guys, what is up? AwesomeTheSauce here. Hope you guys are having a great day and welcome to my review of the groundbreaking update that we got last night. So if you guys are completely in the dark as I was when I woke up today, basically they did a maintenance last night and they did a few things, including a PvE change to crit. But for PvPers, the really big change is definitely the Insane Bolt audit. This is kind of insane, bro. Insane Bolt, what it used to do, it would do either 1,000 to the opponent or 10,000 damage to yourself. It was basically the definition of a Hail Mary. Recently, it got nerfed a little bit because the only enchants that you can use in PvP are Solar Surges, and because it's a low pip spell, the amount of damage that it could do got significantly reduced with the enchant update. Before that, it was extremely overpowered, and even now, it is a very powerful way to win the game off of basically a coin flip. So now, it's different. Now, I never really used Insane that much. Like, I'll be honest, I have won games against very unfair matchups like Ice with it, but I feel like actually making it something that you can use, that's, you know, like really a utility, it's a nice thing. It's just a nice thing. So let's take a deeper look at this spell. This spell does 145 storm damage, but it does it 3 times. The catch, and this is really the storm RNG element that seems to be, it makes it fun. Also makes it kind of crazy. Also makes it almost stupid in PvP to use. But basically, each of these 145 damage shots have a 20% chance to hit yourself. So that means that, like, for example, right, the odds of all 3 of them hitting you are 20% of 20% of 20%. It's like basically flipping, like, I don't know. You can't say a coin because it is 20%. But basically what I'm trying to say, it's very rare that it's going to hit you all 3 times. Meanwhile, if you do the math out, right, the chances that you hit all 3 of these successfully is actually about 50%. So if you have, for example, no shields on and your opponent has more than 1 shield on, this is almost always going to be a good move. So there is a very real reason why this is good. Now let's think about this in context, right? The reason why they added this was because Elf is no longer in the game. As far as shield breaking ability, now this is the best that they got. So I thought I would test it out a little bit. I would go into the Jade Oni, try to see what would happen with traps, try to see what happens with blades, try to just see what it looks like so that you guys can get a better idea of what it is. Now, keep in mind, right, you should probably go into this expecting 1 shot to hit you and 2 shots to hit your opponent. That's probably going to be one of the more likely scenarios. And if your goal is to break 2 shields or more, you're looking at a very high success rate. We're talking like 80-something%. So we'll see that. Obviously, you know, I'm not going to be using it multiple times to the point where we can do something experimentally. This is just all probability. If this is working the way it's supposed to, probabilistically, you're much better off using this when you have multiple shields to break. I'm using the Jade Oni specifically because, you know, I don't know what else to use. So first, we're going to try using it with a couple of traps. So I want to see what, I want to enchant it first off to see what it looks like, but I also want to use a couple of traps and see what happens, because what probably should happen is that every hit is basically, it directs itself onto 1 trap. So if you get 2 hits, you use 2 traps. If you get 3 hits, you use 3 traps. So we're also going to put 2 blades on ourselves to see how blades work. So this should really tell us how we're going to be looking at it in PvP. My boy, really? Man, you suck, bro. I don't care, honestly. Alright, so let's not enchant it at all. I'm just gonna see what this looks like, bro. Let's just see what it looks like. So I have 2 blades and 2 traps. If we're right, then it should just use 1 blade and both traps, right? So let's look at this. So it uses a blade, right? And it hit him once. Ball, 800 damage. You know what I'm saying? Hit me the second time, did not use the blade. Hit him the second time, did use the trap. So if you're gonna be blade stacking, this is on something else, bro. You can break multiple shields with just, if you have 2 blades, you can keep a blade and break multiple shields. So this is a very good move. Look at him, he's already 2,000 health down. All right, so when you enchant it with an epic, it adds 100 to each hit. So that's kind of interesting. So I wonder how it is with Solar Surge. So let's say that, you know, we epic enchant it, right? So every hit should do the same on the Jade Oni anyways. Hopefully we get that. Okay, we won't get that. That's fine. It hit us for 476. It hits him for 569. It hits him for 569 again. So basically, the enchant equally distributes itself, but that's an epic enchant. That doesn't tell us about Solar Surge. All right, so in order to test this out, I'm going to jump into practice, but in order to keep things as, like, you know, as close to the, you know, scientific as possible, I'm gonna run in with no damage. I'm gonna have Heather over here run in with no resist. Alright, hopefully she takes off everything that gives her resist. She literally has no resist. So, we're gonna Solar Surge an Insane Bolt and see how the damage works here. Shout out to Heather for helping me with this. So, let's see what happens. So, keep in mind, an Epic Enchant raised all of each hit by 100, right? So, when you do that, so it looks like they still distribute it. Alright, y'all, so we have an enchanted hit with Solar Surge this time. It looks like it added 30, what is it? Yeah, 33 to each hit. So basically what it's gonna do, I guess, since it's a 2-pip hit, even with Solar Surge, there's no difference. So it's not like, you know, it enchants it differently. So it does exactly what you would expect it to do. And I think this is one of those times that, oh wow, it actually hit 3 times. That would be crazy if that happened in real, dude. That'd be insanity. So what I've learned personally from all these tests is that, one, it's not like, you know, broken in any way when it comes to enchants, because everything gets distributed. It's not like the full enchant of the 100 goes on each of them. Like, I was scared that the Solar Surge would add 100 because it's a 2-pip spell to this, but then that it would do it over and over, you know, like, it would be like basically 3 245 storm damage hits. Luckily, that's not the case. 2, what we've noticed is that it uses traps each time it hits, but it only uses 1 blade, so it's very, very Minotaur-like. And 3, from our tests anyways, and from, you know, you can easily calculate the probability, this is gonna hit many more times against your opponent than it is you. The most likely scenario from, I think if my math is right, is that overall, it's gonna hit your opponent twice, and then it's gonna hit you once. Okay, my dumbass is editing this video, and I realized that was wrong. Actually, this is even better than what I just said. The most likely scenario is that you actually hit 3 times, then the other 50% of the times, right? You can hit yourself once, twice, or 3 times. My bad, I'm stupid. There's also no real bias in this in terms of the order that it hits you, so it is truly random. So, like, it can hit you once in the middle hit, it can hit you once in the first hit, the third hit, so it really is a 20% dice roll every single time that you hit with this. So how do I think this will affect PvP? 1, this is actually a very, very good finisher. I'll say that right now. It's a very, very good finisher. The fact that it can actually hit multiple times, and the fact that, like, you know, if someone's shielding against you, you actually have a good way to finish them off. This is a very, very good way to finish the fight. Another thing that it does is that if someone is anticipating that you can't break shields because you're a Storm and shield spams like crazy, there's a really good way to punish them. Compared to the older Insane, I do think it's not as good. But, that being said, I don't think Insane really belonged in PvP because whenever you did end up using it, it was basically because you were gonna lose anyways. So, I mean, of all ways to fix Insane Bolt, this is probably the best way to do it. I actually think that this is the best way in general to do things. Like, I feel like there should be a small chance of any that it hurts you. I wish that they were more like this when it came to spells. Like Wild Bolt, for example, like 2 out of those 3 choices are really bad, you know? I would prefer that the range was more together and that the numbers were a little bit not bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a very bad spell compared to this. Same with Rusalka. The chances of you getting a weakness are much too high. Much too high. For, like, a weakness is a very, very bad repercussion, you know? Like, I feel like I wish more spells that Storm had anyways were like this, you know? Where the chance of it actually backfiring, not only are they small, but the effects of it will not shift the entire game into the favor of your opponent. So yeah, this is by far one of the best spells that actually uses one of those RNG utilities. I hope that this is a direction that Storm goes if the RNG element has to stay. I wish it was consistent, obviously, but you know, you can't have everything. Will this put Storm back on the map? No, I don't think it will. I think there's other issues with Storm. I think the health problem is I mean, obviously you don't see my gear, but the health problem is very, very apparent. There are still schools like Myth and Fire with much more offensive utility that get more HP, so they'll always be better in PvP, in my opinion. But this gives Storm a fighting chance, and that's the most important thing. I don't think Storm had a fighting chance. Now it kind of does. And honestly, it's probably going to make Storm even more fun to play. It's probably not going to be the most competitive school, It is going to be fun to play, though, so I'm kind of on board with this. But yeah, I feel like a lot of non-Storm Wizards probably are just as on board with this as most Storm Wizards, especially considering Lightning Elf is gone. This is probably the closest Storm is ever going to get to, like, a really good shield-breaking utility. And what I love about it is that it can do quite a bit of damage for 2 pips. It is like, we're talking, like, a lot of damage for 2 pips. So, it could be a very powerful tool that really does keep Storm in the run. How do you guys think this spell is going to be used? Do you guys think it's going to be used primarily as a shield breaker? Do you think it's going to be used primarily as a finisher when someone does happen to shield? Or do you think people are just going to spam this and hope for the best? If people do spam this, do you think it could be even like a bad idea to spam? I feel like there's a lot of questions that I'm left with on this, but this is definitely the buff that Storm needed to even stay in the game, which is why I'm really happy. I think as they do more stuff like gear audits and really show how Storm can shine, maybe they'll get a stat that sets them apart. They clearly don't have health. They clearly don't have damage. They clearly don't have anything that sets them apart. I think the only stat that Storm gets that's actually better than other schools is crit, and the multiplier is so low that it's barely anything. So hopefully we'll see something gear-wise and stat-wise that really sets Storm aside, but until then, I think this will keep us afloat. I think that's the big deal that I'm getting out of it. I'm gonna test the spell out in PvP tonight, so it'll be a lot of fun. Don't miss it. Turn on notifications. Let me know what your opinions of the spell is in the chat. As always, there's tons of links in the description, including my Twitch, my Twitter, my Discord, my Instagram, and of course my Patreon. And as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. So stay awesome. And yeah, y'all.